This is Talking My Walking. I am Rodrigo Ribeiro, and today I'm going to talk about how and why culture is what defines human condition. Culture is one is the most important concept to understand the human condition, because culture it's the reality we build. We all know that. It's what the point of talking about these issues is that we need to be that it needs to be part of a conscious process that we take in account when we analyze reality, when we analyze political reality, the culture of our particular culture, features of civilization, of the mean of everything, because the mean of everything comes from culture, and culture is based on ideas and narratives that are used to build narratives, and narratives is the way to frame reality in specific ways for goals that can be that they are unintentional, which means that the narratives are spontaneous. They don't have an intention to manipulate, but they can also, and they most of the time are built to manipulate. That is why we need to understand in depth and in with the idea, the concept of culture, because culture is living, is it only exists because it is a living reality through us, living organisms, living human beings. Outside of us, whether in a physical in a physical reality as objects and tools, objects that symbolize and represent an idea or a concept or a story, a narrative, or as rituals and as everything else that we identify as culture, but that or they exist in the digital world, but this only has meaning and the purpose when it lives, when it is living in us. It's part of ourselves, of our identity, of what we believe we are, how we understand our relations with others, how we understand the world. And that is one, this is the most important, because how can we understand ourselves without understanding how culture really affects who we are? It really shapes who we are. And forget about choice, freedom of choice, freedom of decision, and everything else. That's not because I want to tell you that it doesn't exist. It exists in a relational way, and this is really important it is really important to have a comprehensive, holistic understanding of how culture really shapes who we are and affects our behavior and everything else that has to do with our lives. This exercise, this reflection that I'm having now, that I'm going through, that my mind, that I intentionally and consciously I make my mind work on it. It helps me to further understanding this same issue that I'm trying to explain. And this is how we exercise through talking with each other, not with the purpose of winning the conversation, of having the best points, the best, no, the to be have a better rhetoric. And no, we are not sophists. People that look for the truth, which I always emphasize, that's relational. There is not such thing as absolute truth. It might have absolute laws. Nature might have laws that we can consider absolute, maybe. I'm not sure about that. But they are also relational, because the laws only exist because they exist in relation to something, to some other laws, and related to a certain reality. That's what the same with the truth. So, but those of us who care about truth, justice, and trust, okay, we do not care about who wins the conversation. Because the point of a conversation, the point of a dialogue, of a negotiation, of a discussion, is to build a better understanding. It's not to win anything. And this already tells us how deeply shaped by this mentality of this competitive mentality of winners and losers, of the ones that become famous and celebrities, and those are that always have to live in the obscurity. And it doesn't matter if they might, the ones that live in the obscurity sometimes are more important what they have to say than those that achieve a lot of notoriety. I'm not saying this is true all the time. There is many people that have something interesting to say and important that they become widely known. But this is not the matter. This is why, everything we know, everything we believe, everything we suppose is true is conveyed by a framing, a cultural frame. What we understand about life, about things that are really important to us, such as money, private property, uh, uh, available consumption, all the stuff, all this that is part of the reality, the habits of consumption, that we don't even understand almost anything about life, but through consumption. In order that we, our habits, in order to have fun, in order to be happy, to have joy, we are supposed to consume something, to go to some place, and of course it has connected with pleasure. But we almost don't see that it's possible to have pleasure without consumption, without consuming something, to go to some resort or to restaurant or to this. Doesn't it play a role in our lives? It's part of uh, pleasure, and it is. But it is just that we just become dependent on it. Our happiness, joy, entertainment. We cannot, when we are children, we can be happy with expensive toys, but they might become useless or valueless in a short time, because the children doesn't see it, doesn't perceive it the same way as we perceive it in money value or even in technological sophistication. They have it as a toy, and the toy is a toy. Can be a stick, can be a stone, can be, it has, because what matters is imagination, is the ability that we can play with something that we can use our imagination to have pleasure. Of course, if we do not, if we get used and dependent, that things have to have action and competition and all these kind of things that we get addicted to. This is a problem of addiction, mental addiction, emotional addiction. That at the same time that we build our biosociocultural or psychosociocultural reality, identity, that becomes who we are, how we perceive ourselves. And it was not built by ourselves. I mean, it was built by ourselves with our consent, but not conscious. It has been through the influence, through the manipulation, through the exploitation of our weaknesses and our need to belong and our need as social beings, because this is another aspect that is important for our cultural nature, for how we depend so much on culture. Culture, that's what defines us. That's this is the point. And we need, again, we need um, to to develop a culture intentionally, consciously, that makes us resilient, to become tools of other uh, citizens or groups, organizations, movements, political parties, uh, religion organizations, and or any other for cultural or like, I mean, for example, the amount of influence that pop stars, music stars, actors, influencers, celebrities, sports people, and others, they have in our imagination, in our, I mean, it is not, I mean, it is undeserved, and most of us, or at least a lot of people, and do not understand it. But the same goes for also for scientists and academics and many people of the so-called professional managerial class. The amount of influence they have, of course, the ones I cited before, they have more influence because it is easier. But there are so many these transforming people, individuals into stars, into heroes, celebrities, role models that we are supposed to see and to follow and to mimic, you know, that is not, how can we believe that's how we build freedom? Why do we talk about freedom when, and because freedom has to do with agency, okay? There is no freedom without agency, political, economic, and cultural. All right, this doesn't exist. And how can we believe that we give up our agency, or to build up our agency, our a strong, resilient identity, that we want to participate as equals, okay? But then, no, because we have to follow and to worship and to idolize the ones that, because they have some advantages, which means if they have skills, or they have natural or built skills that makes them having an edge. Uh, I don't, I mean, I always say the same thing, because this is important. These people that through hard work, okay, dedication, and even sacrifice, they build their careers, or they become recognized because what they do. We need to respect them and even to admire them if they deserve it. But we cannot transform it in this cultural of idolizing these people and believing they are better than us. They are not better. They just have certain, I mean, you cannot, I mean, you can, or if we cannot be good in something, we for sure are good in something else. And for humanity at large, the things that we do not even talk about at all, the caring economy, the people that work every day hard, to the ones that grow the food, the ones that take care of this. This is what really matters, because this is the basics. Man, most of the other things that we consider important, they are distractions. They just want to keep us distracted and divided, because therefore we are more easily controlled, while believing that we really enjoy freedom. But we enjoy freedom within the parameters that are not written by us. They are imposed by those who control the existing system, socio-cultural system, and economical political system. And that's where we fail to understand. And we keep our minds busy. And that's the purpose of it. There is nothing wrong with a football match, okay? What's wrong is that when it becomes more important in our lives, in many, I mean, when I'm talking about football, I could talk about many things. When uh, those spectacles become more important to our lives than sometimes our lives, which means our real lives, the conditions that we have to go through every day in order to put food on the table or a roof over our heads and feed our children. You know, and this is how those who control us want us to be like that. They know much better uh, how they know, they understand the human condition, because they have access to the best knowledge, okay, to the most advanced knowledge, and they can hire the best professionals and experts and academics and scientists and this and that, because they have the money to pay. So what this matters is that they have the tools, okay, to produce the narratives, to frame the reality, to frame the cultural reality that is used to manipulate us. Of course, we don't perceive ourselves as victims, as being targets, as being useful idiots, because they they already made us believe that everything we think, every choice we make and decision we take is part of our individual freedom, you know. and we are following our self-interest, as if we all, uh, doesn't matter our our background or our age, or whatever, we all are playing in the level playing field, which is not true in any sense. On the top of that, there are the circumstances of life, of our experience, of what we go through at particular moments and periods of our lives that take a huge toll on how on everything, on our mental lives, on our ability to discern with clarity, because we are humans, we are living beings, and the purpose of our systems is to run a living organism. And the homeostatic uh, state of our organism, or the dynamics of our homeostatic process, is run also with parameters and inputs from cultural norms and culture values and all the rest that is part of the reality as we understand it through culture. So therefore the biological processes are usually, I mean biological, physiological, mental processes, you know, are very influenced by these cultural frames that we don't even care to think about, because we take them as granted, because we believe the reality is what it was those parameters give us. That's how we perceive, that's how we interpret the patterns of reality, the outside reality, of the reality of the real objects, the real economy, and the society, the real objects, the things that we need to survive, okay, but also the symbolic objects and the languages and narratives that give us the meaning, okay, and we that's how profoundly important, relevant this issue is, and we do not give it much. Most of us do not really reflect about it, do not put it in the front row or under the spotlight. But this is required if we want to have a true conscious transformative process, to become as free as possible as cultural beings that receive, that are indoctrinated, because we are all indoctrinated through a system of values and norms and principles and everything else that give us the meaning and the identity. We can never build a true culture that really stimulates freedom to use our lives the best possible way, that we discover what is as long as along we are our lives, not just in a precise moment, that we discover, because it is a process, who really are we, what do we really want to do with our lives. That is freedom. Otherwise we might go through life being confused about our identity, or being not confused, but being but having a fake identity that has nothing to do with our discovery of ourselves as particular as individuals, but as followers of something, but as just that have people, that individuals that have been manipulated by ideas, by narratives, by cultural frames that are not tailored to help us to discover what really what freedom is about. Habits and behaviors um, are very important to shape our identity, uh, and 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 behavior and though they can be also influenced, of course. So many habits that we take for granted, that we believe they are part of our choices, free choices. Okay, again, it's always about that we have really the autonomy to choose them freely. Nobody is pointing us a gun. No, they do not want to put to point a gun to us. They have uh, the ones that really control this thing. They really know how to manipulate without the necessity to point a gun. Is basically about repetition and mimicry. That's how it is. Which means that they also use the values. They again they use this is obvious. They use the celebrities to sell stuff, but they sell stuff while they sell habits, ideas. Not sell. When people believe that we are being, they use the celebrities, which is obvious, to sell us shampoos and cars, uh, and I mean whatever. They are selling much more than that, and what they are selling is addiction and these patterns and mind control by associating lifestyles and social status with happiness and with success and value and and identity and the human, the and purpose and meaning. That's what it is about. And there is another important feature of all this process is to exploit hope, because hope plays an important role in life, but it can play a very negative role when hope becomes a tool for inaction, when it just makes us expecting that somebody else, a hero, a savior, a leader, whoever, is going to make a difference. That's without, and therefore we don't feel the need to organize, to unite, to overcome our divisions. That usually they are not organic, they are not spontaneous, they have been spread by the same people that want to control us, and of course, division is a basic element of control, and hope can become a very pernicious part of our lives, especially when it makes us comply with evil realities, because we expect to somehow be able to solve our individual problems and because we also feel that's the problem with hope, is hope together with helplessness. You know, is we hope that somehow we can solve our particular problems, because we feel helpless. This learned helplessness that is so much spread and make just make us cope with the reality, because we do not see any way how we can change it. There is no alternative. This is a very powerful slogan. It's a very powerful dogma, uh, and we do not discuss it again. We just, that's what is missing uh, in the left these days. We need to build a radical left, and by radical I really mean I use the word radical uh, that goes to the roots of the problems. And of course, culture is important, but again, culture is also a problem. That's why it's so is so important to go to the roots of where the problems come from. This process cannot be done by us assuming the condition of followers of authorities or experts or whoever it is. That's not, again, I want to emphasize it. Do we need the knowledge that is produced by academics and by other people? Surely we do. But not by taking them as authorities. Because if you want to empower us, we want to become not autonomous in the sense that we are independent from others, we don't care about others. No, we need to become, to develop, to induce consciously a conscious transformative process. And this process needs to be important to us if we really want, if freedom is, if really freedom is important to us, this needs to be important to us also. Not by uh, becoming just a follower, but using the knowledge. That's why I say always, we all are bits and pieces of other people's knowledge and experience, okay? And therefore we need to be, that's part of the process of freeing ourselves. But this process needs to be conscious, not just as passive learners. It is important to understand that by being passive learners, that means that we can understand things intellectually, but they don't really change us. Change comes with intention. Change comes with conscious, an intentional, conscious, transformative process. And this is really important. This is not just uh, something that we cannot care about because it's okay. What does it matter? No, this is crucial. This is at the core, and we need to take it as if it really matters in our lives. One of the reasons that I believe in my tendency is left leaning is one of the reasons. Okay, there is more. There are more. Is because private property is not a natural right. It has never been a natural right. It has been a way for the elites to legalize, to make it legal, legitimize the process of encircling the commons. Okay, and then to create a system that allows that, like the inheritance rights as well, that they would make sure. And you have to remember that before it was only the oldest son that would get everything. Okay, to be in control. That was this concentration of wealth and concentration of property. And this was not never. It was never meant to free people. And this is an important issue, because when we associate freedom with owning private property, we are killing. I mean, we are assuming that the only way to become free is by pursuing this idea of owning something, the American dream. This is transformed into a dream. That's why culture is important, because this is another basic framing, cultural framing, that has been so powerful for this culture of division, this culture of class or caste-based society, this imperialistic, this paradigm of this imperialistic civilizational paradigm that has been controlling our lives through these ideas, of this basic idea of private property as a natural right, which it was defined by John Locke. Um, and this later was with the liberal values, okay, that everyone has the right to own property, okay. But this comes with a catch, because this is how the elites can transform us into accomplices, because they know that they will, by this move, just makes all of us we want to pursue this dream of owning property, and then therefore we when we get it, we don't want to lose it. Therefore, we become accomplices of those who are really the ones that control society. And then we just become supporters of inequality, because we don't even see us as being exploited. We might see us as small part of this class of owners, and we might perceive those that don't own anything, the ones that are really poor, or whatever reason they are they are even below the poverty line. We might even despise them, but we are close to them, not close to the top, not close to the 1%, but we strongly believe that we are somehow part of the club, but we ain't. So this is how powerful. There was this guy that wrote a book. I don't remember. It was 1 century ago. Ideas have consequences. This is really a very important point, because ideas have consequences in the real life. They are responsible for how we understand the real life, the real relations between people, power relations, how power works, how power becomes uh, blind, how we don't see it. We just make it, we are oblivious to it. It becomes as if it operates and it doesn't matter. But this is why this is another, or this is part of the problem that can only be solved, as I said before, through an intentional, conscious process, transformative process to to deconstruct the ideas, the cultural frames that shape our identity, our sociocultural identity, how we understand economics and politics, how we understand life, how we understand our relation between us and nature and other living organisms and everything else, and the cosmos as well. And this, to me, is one, or maybe the most important issue that we need to face, that is challenging us, because we are operating under ideas and assumptions about our human nature and condition that we should confront, that we should uh, um, questioning. I mean, this is to me, if we don't do it, how can we solve the problems? How can we come up with ideas for a society, a humanized society, and a humanized civilization? What I call the ecological holistic civilization, because that's what we need. We don't only need an ecological civilization, we need an ecological holistic civilization with a social and ecological political economy. But how can we even get there? Just to start talking, organizing, and uniting around these concepts. I mean, talking about all humanity, I'm not talking about any particular country or people or culture or civilization or whatever. This is a global issue, by the way. This is not an issue that concerns anybody in particular. Of course, those that already are wealthy and developed should be the ones to start. But it only works if it becomes an international organization, if there is international organizations that make it work. Not this imperialistic, the so-called rules-based international order, and these ideas of great power competition. This is going to be the end of us. This is a mentality that needs to be, that it is dominant, but needs to be replaced by another cultural frame and another power form of exercising power, democratic, participatory. Otherwise, we will end up in some, I mean, I don't even know. It is very difficult, because uh, the trends that we see now, in spite of all the hopes that people have in the multipolar world, and how countries like China, Russia, even India, and other countries are aligning kind of against the imperialist West. I don't know. I don't think this is that the West needs to, the imperialist West needs to end. That is, I'm sure about that. But we should be more active. We the people, or we the peoples, should be more aware that we should participate in what kind of world do we want to replace this unipolar order that is ending. And we are not doing it. We again are expecting that others do it for us, and hoping that the Chinese model might give us the lines for a better future. What I mean is that we need to stop perceiving ourselves as subjects, useful idiots, you know, because I mean, again, stop talking about freedom when you don't see, we don't, when you or me, we do not understand that we are just subjects. Subjects fight for freedom, don't believe they are free. This is obvious, and that's why we need to go to the roots of the problems. And the roots of the problems are, of course, they are not, I mean, the roots of the problems are real. The roots are in the real world. Power dynamics, wealth accumulation, concentration of power for control. That's the roots of the problems. But the cultural roots are the ones that are used to keep us at bay, you know, to make us believe that, again, we enjoy the freedom that we actually don't, or we have the power to free decision, free choice, and free decision making process, when we don't even have a level playing field. How does it happen like that? Of course, those who tell us these stories, who frame these narratives this way, of course they do enjoy it, or they are the ones that at least enjoy it as a much higher level. They are the ones that benefit with the existing system, not us, not the many. And we have to have all these things in a comprehensive, holistic understanding to make sense out of it. Without understanding that the cumulative process of the pursuit of individual interest ends on the accumulation of wealth and concentration of power at the top of the social pyramid. Okay? That's how it works. The pursuit of self-interest, that we focus, our lives are focused in this idea. We have this idea deeply colonizing at the deeper level of our minds. But what this idea does, what this idea does in the real world, is to allow the accumulation of wealth and the concentration of power at the top, in the 1% and the 0.1% of the population. It doesn't matter. That happens in America, in China, in Russia, in India, and in all the rest of the countries. And that's why this is not really. We need to understand that we need to overcome this principle and the culture that supports it. Okay? Thank you for listening. I will be back soon.